Do not mistake the sound of battle for the sound of courage. Many men have charged into blood not because they were brave, but because silence left them alone with themselves. I am Ares, god of war, son of Zeus and Hera. The bronze cry, the red hand, the shaking shield, the hunger that rises when men forget the cost of being feared. Athena measured war. I hungered for it. She counted the graves before the first spear flew. I heard the drum and called it life. Men pray for peace until their pride is touched. Then they call for me. They speak of justice, honor, revenge, protection, and destiny. But beneath many noble words, I hear the old thirst for violence. Do not think war begins when swords are drawn. War begins when the heart starts enjoying the thought of another man's defeat. The battlefield only reveals what the soul has already rehearsed. I was not loved as other gods were loved. Zeus had his throne, Apollo his songs, Athena her wisdom, Aphrodite her beauty. I had the scream before the spear entered flesh. Even my father looked upon me with disgust. In the songs of men, Zeus called me hateful, two-faced, a lover of quarrels and fighting. He needed war at times, but he despised the God who delighted in it. That is the curse of being necessary and unloved. Every kingdom prepares for war, every king keeps soldiers, every city raises walls. Yet when blood spills, they blame the spirit they secretly fed. Men say they hate war, but they polish their weapons. They say they fear violence, but they cheer when their enemies fall. They say they want peace, but they teach their sons which names to hate. I did not create all their rage. I only gave it a banner. I gave their fury a rhythm, their fear a shout, and their wound a target. That is how war seduces. It takes confusion and gives it direction. It takes shame and gives it armor. It takes pain and says, "There, that is your enemy." In war, a coward can feel brave, a broken man can feel powerful, and a lost man can feel useful. Blood gives a terrible simplicity to souls that do not know how to live with questions. But simplicity is not truth. To name an enemy is not to heal the wound that made you need one. To destroy what you hate is not to become whole. I walked among warriors and heard their hearts before battle. Some trembled for home, some prayed for survival. Some fought because duty had placed a spear in their hands, but others burned. Their eyes already lived in the killing. They did not fear becoming monsters. They feared returning to a life where no one trembled before them. Those were mine. Not the soldiers who fought because duty demanded it, but the ones who felt most alive when another man began to fear them. I knew them by the way they breathed when violence drew near. I knew them by the pleasure they hid beneath the language of honor. I knew them by how quickly they mistook cruelty for strength. This is the first lesson of war. Battle does not only test a man, it tempts him. It offers permission to release what ordinary life forced him to restrain. And once a man has tasted permission, peace can feel small to him. A quiet house can feel like a cage. A gentle voice can feel like weakness. A life without enemies can feel empty. That is why some men cannot leave the battlefield even after the battle ends. Their bodies return, but their souls keep marching. They bring war into homes, friendships, marriages, and silence. I have watched fathers rule their tables like generals. I have watched lovers turn every disagreement into a siege. I have watched leaders call cruelty discipline because kindness made them feel exposed. That is war after war. The spear has been laid down, but the hunger remains. And wherever the hunger remains, I remain also. Do not confuse me with courage. Courage faces danger to protect what is good. I often fed on something darker, the desire to dominate, to wound, to prove the self through another's fear. Courage may enter war, but war is not always courage. Sometimes war is fear dressed in bronze. Sometimes rage is only terror that learned to shout. My children knew this truth. Phobos and Deimos, fear and terror, rode beside me. Men remember my strength, but fear and terror were the sons who followed closest. That is what violence gives birth to. Not peace, not safety, fear, terror. generations looking over their shoulders because one moment of rage became inheritance. A warrior may win the field, but his children may inherit the trembling. A king may conquer a border, but his people may inherit enemies. A father may win the argument, but his house may inherit silence. This is the cost men rarely count. Athena counted. I did not. She measured what war would leave behind. I only loved the heat of it while it lived. At Troy, I found a feast. Heroes, kings, brothers, fathers, sons, all gathered beneath banners, each believing their own wound was sacred enough to demand death. They sang of Helen, honor, oath, and destiny. But beneath the songs, I heard pride. I heard possession. I heard men who would burn a generation rather than suffer humiliation. I walked the Trojan fields with bronze in my blood. Dust rose, shields shattered, horses screamed, and men who had once been children became names for poets to polish. Do not trust every song that calls death glorious. Songs come after the blood is dried. Songs do not always remember the smell, the begging, the mothers, and the empty rooms. I loved the clash. I will not lie. I loved the force of it, the certainty, the moment when men stopped pretending and became the violence they had carried. But even I was not beyond humiliation. Diomedes struck me, guided by Athena. Wisdom wounded war, strategy pierced appetite, and I roared as if 10,000 men had cried out at once. Remember this, brute force can be wounded by a clear mind. Rage may seem unstoppable, but strategy sees where the armor opens. I fled to Olympus in pain and complained to Zeus. I showed him the wound, but my father did not pity me as I wished. He called me hateful, unstable, lover of strife. And there, before the throne of the sky, I learned what every violent soul eventually learns. The world may use your strength, but it may still despise what you become. There is loneliness in being feared. Men think fear proves power. It does not. Fear builds distance, closes doors, and obeys while secretly waiting for your fall. I saw this in the eyes of mortals. They invoked me before battle, but few wanted me at their table. They asked for my strength, then prayed I would leave when peace returned. That is because war is useful only when chained to purpose. Unchained, it devours the house that welcomed it. I did not know how to remain chained. My love for Aphrodite revealed this also. For desire and violence are closer than men admit. Both can make the blood rush and the soul mistake possession for life. She was beauty, longing, the power that pulls the heart out of hiding. I was force, hunger, the power that breaks what resists. Together, we became a secret no one could keep buried forever. Hephaestus knew. The wounded craftsman, the rejected husband, the god of the forge. He did not meet my force with force. He used craft. He made a net finer than sight and stronger than shame. He trapped us where our appetite thought itself hidden, and called the gods to witness what we had done. There are few humiliations greater than exposed desire. The warrior who fears no spear may still tremble when his secret self is dragged into the light. I had mocked the slow, the patient, the maker. Yet the forge defeated the battlefield. Craft captured force. The wounded mind caught what raw strength could not see. Learn from this. What you hide still shapes you. What you do in secret is already weaving a net around your name. Passion without honor becomes disgrace. Desire without restraint becomes spectacle. The bed of betrayal may feel like victory until the day the room fills with witnesses. Do not think this lesson belongs only to gods. Men do this constantly. They call lust love, conquest passion, betrayal destiny, and then act surprised when the hidden thing demands payment. I was war, and yet I was often conquered by my own appetites. This is the shame of the violent. They may defeat enemies while remaining slaves to themselves. Strength without self-rule is not strength. It is merely force waiting for a direction. And force without wisdom will eventually serve whatever hunger speaks loudest. Many men worship force because it gives immediate answers. Strike, dominate, silence, conquer. But the soul is not healed by making others smaller. If you need another man to kneel so you can feel tall, you are not mighty. You are wounded. If peace feels like boredom, your spirit has become addicted to conflict. I have seen men manufacture enemies because they did not know who they were without battle. They searched for insults, fed on outrage, and called constant conflict authenticity. But not every fire is sacred. Some fires only burn because no one has learned how to sit quietly with pain. This is why I speak to you now not as a hero, but as a warning. I know the intoxication of the first strike. I know the dark pleasure of being feared. I know the lie that says violence will finally make you real. It will not. Violence may give you a moment of shape, but it cannot give you a soul. It can make others remember your name, but not always with love. War can defend what is precious when no other path remains. I will not deny this. There are times when the shield must rise, when evil must be resisted, when courage must take flesh. But when war becomes hunger, it stops defending life and begins feeding on it. When conflict becomes identity, every room becomes a battlefield waiting for your entrance. So ask yourself before you call on me, are you protecting what is good, or are you seeking something to break? Are you defending truth, or are you addicted to the feeling of power? Are you brave, or merely angry? Are you strong, or merely loud? Are you fighting because the hour demands it, or because peace leaves you alone with wounds you have refused to heal? These questions matter, for the sword does not ask why it is lifted. The hand must know. Ares within you is not only found on battlefields. He rises in the insult you cannot release, the reply you sharpen to humiliate, the need to win every argument. He rises in the pleasure you feel when someone else finally bleeds emotionally. He rises when you confuse dominance with respect, cruelty with honesty, and destruction with strength. Do not feed him carelessly. The warrior inside you must be governed, or he becomes a destroyer. The fire must be held, or it becomes ruin. The red hand must learn what it is allowed to protect, and what it must never touch. Strength becomes sacred only when it kneels before something higher than its own hunger. This is what Athena knew. This is why I both hated and needed her. She was the law that war despises and the wisdom that war requires. Without her, I was only appetite with armor. With her, war could become strategy, protection, sacrifice, and discipline. Even I needed the thing I resented. Remember this when you hate restraint. The boundary you despise may be the only thing preventing your strength from becoming your shame. If rage lives in you, do not pretend it is not there. A denied fire does not become holy. It goes underground and waits for dry wood. Name it, train it. Give it a wall to defend, not a village to burn. Let anger become courage, strength become protection, and the warrior within you kneel before wisdom before he reaches for the spear. For the greatest warrior is not the one who hungers for war. It is the one who can fight without loving destruction and return without bringing the battlefield home. I am Ares. I have heard the drums, drunk the shouting, loved the clash, and watched men turn fear into a god with my face. I have been called necessary, hateful, glorious, shameful, brave, brutal, and mad. All were true in different mouths, because war has always worn more than one mask. So remember me when your blood begins to sing for conflict. Remember me when victory tastes sweeter than mercy. Remember me when being feared starts to feel like being loved. I am Ares, and I learned too late that war may crown a man for a moment, but if he hungers for it, it will make him empty forever.